Hey friends, my name is Shamil and this video is going to be about what are temporal tables and how do they work with SSIS. I'm fairly new with SSIS and I'm learning, and I just decided that I should be making a video in order to make sure that I can remember whatever I have learned. So I'm going to do this demo just for my own training purposes, and I'm just recording it just for the sake of recording it. Okay, so without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one table, and before creating a table I'm going to create one database, and in my case I'm going to call my database source DB, because this is basically going to be my source database, which will contain the regular table. And yeah, so once I've created this table, I'm going to create my employees table, and if you can check here, the employees table only contains employee ID, first name, last name, annual salary, and that's it. We are not going to bother with any kind of timestamp here, because most of the times when we are working with SSIS on the older or legacy systems, we are often have to face issues in which we don't really have any kind of timestamp that is being maintained. So how do we, that's where exactly the basically temporal table with history table feature comes into the play. So this is going to demonstrate that aspect very perfectly. So I'm going to create this table. Okay, I have a wrong database. Oops. Okay, so once I create this table, and when I expand this, it's over here. I'm going to feed in 3 specific rows, and when I check over here, we can see that these are the 3 people, 3 employees that have their entries in my table. Now, in order to keep my SSIS, I'm going to need a destination database, and once that database is in place, I'm going to work with the SSIS package. So in order to do that, let me see, I'll just call it testdb. Okay, I really hope I don't have the same name. I'll just call it like this. Okay, and once I have my testdb, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my own temporal table, and for that I have already prepared the script for you guys. So let's just check what it is about. We are going to so what we are going to do is we are going to use the destination database that we created right now, and then it's going to query if this particular table already exists. It's going to first set the system versioning off, and then it will drop. There are 2 tables that are going to stay here. One is going to be the employees temporal table, and the other one is going to be capturing the history of changes that I'm going to be doing on the table. Now, I'm not going to be making any changes to this table per se, because whatever changes that are going to happen are only going to happen on the source database basically. So we have this. Now we are going to create a table. Our employee ID, first name, last name, annual salary is going to be just as that, but then there are 2 and 3 columns that are being introduced. This one is going to be the start date. It's basically the start of the generated date time column that is present in the temporal table, and then this ends it. Usually it is basically set to year 9999, but as soon as any value changes, it sets to that particular value. Okay, so now the rest is simple. Now with in here I'm going to basically name the history table, and if this table does not exist by itself, it is going to get auto created. Okay, so now I'm going to create this this just to be sure that we are not creating anywhere else. And then okay, now we have the temporal table, and the history table is right underneath that. You will see that it's not present elsewhere, so just so you know. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to fire up our SSIS. So in order to access that, we are going to fire up our Visual Studio 2019. So far I don't see that the additional package for SSIS is out there for 2022. So we are still stuck with 2019 for now. So we are going to create a new project. I'm going to name that. We can search it from here, and this is the one that we have to select. Click next. I'm going to name this, well, demo, and I'm going to create. Alright, cool. So now we are in the SSIS package creation screen. So in order to first start, we have to bring in the data flow task, and there are going to be two aspects of this. I'll explain to you. Basically what is going on is that we have a source database, and there can be new row, and then there could be an old row that is changed probably. So in case of new row, what we are going to do is we are going to simply create the SSIS package batch that will basically do the heavy lifting, because more new rows will be present on the table on a daily basis, in comparison to the update statements that run over time. And usually in my particular environment that I am working on, the updates are very rare. So I'm going to go with this design, but again, if your business have a different aspect, I'm pretty sure you'll have to come up with a different plan, because this aspect, the merge statements, are going to be a performance killer. So you need to be wary of that, and choose your design as per your business requirements. Okay, so this is pretty self-explanatory flowchart that I made. So what we are going to do is we have a data flow task, and inside the data flow task, I'm going to add a source, and my source is going to be my SQL server, and that's my black box, and my database is going to be source DB. Okay, I still have to configure the table name, so my table is going to be employees, and yep, that's it. Okay, cool. Now I have a destination, and my destination is going to be a new one. And again, the destination is on the same server, so black box, and then I'm going for a dest DB, and yep, cool. Okay, first, before I do that, I have to connect this, and now I'm able to pick the table. We have to pick employees table, and then let's just check our mappings. It should be like this. These two columns are self-generated columns, they don't have to be mapped, and yep, that's about it, I think. Okay, so let's just test this part. Okay, we are going to start our deployment. Okay, 3 rows were transferred. Now if we have to check select star from employees, and we are also going to keep a track on the history table, because as we make our changes, it's going to be important to show over here. So since so far we have not made any changes, this is how our temporal table looks like. We have the initial columns, and then we have the start date. This start date is basically the time in which we have inserted the row over here, and then the employee valid till date, it's basically the validity of this information that is over here. If we are going to make any changes, the new change is going to take place over here, and the old one is going to be moved to the history table. So that's exactly how it the SQL Server keeps a track of this change tracking, basically. Without using, you don't even have to use the change data capture feature to use this kind of feature. Okay, so now this is only the insert aspect of things, right? Now if we are going to say yeah, so I have some update statements that I have saved, and I'm going to just copy these here. Okay, now if I'm going to run this update statement, what happens over here is the Adam's salary is now 15,000 instead of 5,000, as you can see. But now, even though we run this package again, it's not going to change anything. Not only does it not change anything, you will see that there is an X mark over here, which means that something has gone bad. And what has gone bad here is that the rows already exist, and because the rows already exist, it's trying to overwrite these, but it's not allowing it to overwrite because we are using the insert statement here. So in order to fix that, the first thing that we have to do is we have to double click on the source, and then you can see that data access mode is table or view. Instead of that, we should use SQL command, and once we use that, we can we'll have to write some scripts, and I happen to have those scripts already prepared. So for my first movement, I'm using this. Basically what's going on is that it's going to be copying everything from the employees where the employee ID is not already on the destination table. And with this, we are going to design a form of incremental SSIS package instead of keeping and like picking and dropping entire table every time the package runs. It's not convenient for bigger databases. Sure, you can face some kind of problems here, but if with the right indexes, I think that we can overcome the performance aspect of this problem. So with this, we have checked that the query is fine, and now if we are going to run this again, it succeeds. Okay, perfect. And you can see that no number of rows are mentioned here, and that is because the source as well as the destination have the same number of rows and nothing has changed. But I must tell you that we already ran this update statement, and on the source it's showing Adam's salary is 15,000. However, on the destination it's still 5,000. So how do we fix that? And the reason why these discrepancies are in first place is because we uh, made this query basically. So if Adam's employee ID is already in this table, it's not going to bother with whatever data changes that have occurred. So what do we do next? In order to fix that, I have a merge statement that we can run. What basically it will do is that when the employee IDs match, it's going to check for their salary, first name and last name. If in any case either one of these don't match, then that particular row is going to be updated. So that's just one row at a time, right? Cool. So I'll just copy this script right over here, go back to control flow, and now I'm going to select execute TSQL statement task. I wonder why it's not going there. Alright, here. Okay. Now I'm going to double click on this one. I have to name the connection, let's say merge. Okay, this one takes some time because I should have written that. Okay. Alright, so we have our black box, okay, ready, and I'll just paste this over here, click on OK, and because this is a control flow, I want the inserts to happen first and then my execute statement to run. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press start to see if the changes have occurred. So going back, do we see any changes? No, we don't. And why is that? Okay, looks like I might have done something wrong. Okay, so the problem is that over here, my initial demo in which I was practicing, that those names were basically testDB and sourceDB, and that's where the problem showed up. But it's a good thing that we found that early on. Wait, it would be easier to change it over here. Okay, and this is going to be okay, I don't have to mess with this one, and I think this should work. Let's go back, delete, paste. We don't need comments here, and press OK. Now we are going to start again, and it started. Now let's go back to our statement, and ta-da! So now we can see that Adam Warlock has 15,000 annual salary, and he's no longer the poor guy. And you can see that it's going to display the old value and the time this particular value changed, the initial time in which that particular value was fed, Now here you're gonna see the new time that in which this value was replicated, and this one. This particular time is subjective to this table only. If your SSIS package did not run within in that time frame, then it's basically not going to reflect exact time in which our update statement on the original table ran. So you need to make sure of the frequency with which your package basically runs. Okay, that was just one column. We usually get in trouble with merge statements when there are some issues with multiple rows. Sometimes changing multiple rows brings in a bug. So I'm going to execute these two. Okay, it says that there are no rows because we never really inserted these rows. I'm going to insert these. We already have Reed Richards. Alright. Okay. Now we still have this many rows, and we have on the source table we have 6 rows, so we'll have to first ensure that our SSIS package runs and the insert statements are done. Only then, if we are going to make any updates, it's going to reflect in our temporal tables. So these are some gotchas that we need to take care of. Okay, now we have our statements run. We will run this again and see if there is any changes. Okay, cool. Oops. So now we changed 2 rows and both of them were handled very perfectly. Alright, how about delete statements? Let's just delete from. We don't want any employee called Bruce, so we are going to get rid of him. Okay, oops, we removed him. Now if we are going to run this package again, alright, we still have Bruce here, so delete works and update works for us, which is pretty cool. Now how do we automate this whole thing? That's the question. Okay, pretty good. So in order to do that, it's not much of a problem here. We just need to save this entire package, and we have to like configure the we have to configure basically everything else. So okay, I'm going to go into here, this folder, and I'm going to save this. Okay, we have saved this. Now what we need to do is we need to deploy it. Okay, cool. So in order to deploy this, we need to enable our jobs agent services. We have enabled it, and once we have enabled it, we need to create a new job. This is going to be SSIS job over here. And in this I'm going to create a new step. My new step is going to be step 1. We can name it whatever we want. From type, we are going to select SQL Server Integration Services package. Package source, because we are keeping it on the file system, we are going to select the file system from the options, and then our package is done. Advanced, okay, perfect. Alright, we have our step. Now what we can do is every minute, because I'm going to run this every minute for the demo purpose. Okay, cool. Now, although I have created this job, I think that we should keep it disabled for now because it's going to fail. What I'm trying to say here is that that particular service, agent service, does not have access. So I'm going to provide that access. So I think, okay, in my previous when I tried to configure this previously, these two services were already granted this access, so it shouldn't matter. Okay, cool. So now I think that we are fine with our job. I'm going to disable the earlier one. Okay, if I'm going to try to run this, it succeeds. That's very good. Okay, we have these kinds of things. Okay, let's see what else we can do. I'm going to insert the remaining number of rows, and I'm going to wait for a minute, see if these populate. Cool. Okay, the rows are populating on its own. How about we like delete from this where employee ID less than 5. Okay, less than 5 means 4 rows for us. Let's see if these people are disappear. So far they're still there, aren't they? But 1 minute is not completed. Okay, they are gone from here to here. So this is all basically temporal tables are about, and that's how you track changes that are done to your source table, and all these information are being stored, and you will notice that you can't keep a track of what exactly is keeping a track of your table. Basically, to your source database, you don't see any objects, you don't see any triggers. So basically it's pretty cool feature in my opinion. Yeah. So that was it for today. Thank you for your time. Bye.